So everyone, good morning. This is the first live session. This is completely live today for AMP Music Summit. I'm sitting here with some incredible people, and I'm really excited to introduce you to them. And you're going to see them. I think their names are up. I hope you can see them. But I'll start just kind of giving introductions for everyone. So first and foremost, John Petrocelli. He is the CEO and founder of Bulldog DM. They are the world's most experienced live streaming company for premium content, helping clients like Spotify, Netflix, Apple, Samsung, you name it, a bunch of them. He's been instrumental in helping content owners establish strategies to distribute and monetize their video content. So we're going to really talk to him too. He's been around. He was sales and biz dev at AEG after selling his company to AEG. And one of the things he did is he helped lead live streaming engagements for Coachella, Lollapalooza, ACL, Rock in Rio, and multiple entities like that. Really excited to get his background and what we're going to be doing with talking about, especially with the history and where we're at now around music. We also got Reid Speed. Her name is synonymous with American drum and bass. She's been ranked among America's best DJs for the past 2 decades. I'm super excited to talk to her today. Her award-winning Play Me Records label has introduced more talent than any of its kind, and Reid is, as you guys probably already know, respected tastemaker and curator. Super excited as well. Again, one more to round it out here. We got Richard Oesterreicher. Now, he's the CEO of Streaming Global, and you're going to want to remember his name. He's been a technology entrepreneur, successfully building companies for over 30 years now. He joined Microsoft in the early 90s, where he led the development for Microsoft's first digital media group. And he's actually was at the forefront of live streaming. So guys, welcome. Thank you so much for hopping on today. I want to keep the flow going. I know a lot of people have questions about live streaming and how it pertains to them right now and at this moment in the COVID crisis. But I'd love for you guys to talk about the history to start out and give kind of a background on live streaming and then live streaming and music to kind of bring everyone up to speed, because it hasn't been that long. We've progressed tremendously.
I'll jump in there and start just on the history of general live streaming, and then I'm going to hand it off to John to talk a little more about music, because I know that's certainly something he's more focused on than I am. But from the early days, it started with just smooth movie playback on the Windows platform. This is before real networks began, before, a lot of the early days, early 90s. There weren't even GPUs when we started that. So we had very slow memory to write to, and we had to make all kinds of tricks just to make it work. It's been an absolute blast being a part of that industry through multiple inception points, as it went from, can we make it work, to, oh my gosh, the internet has broadband now, so a lot of people can do it. Scale wasn't even an issue in the early designs for streaming. That was certainly an afterthought. And being able to add scale came later. And then we, at Streaming Global, that's been kind of our complete focus, has been about reliability at scale, now that all the other problems were solved along the way. And I've seen a lot of interesting software technologies and hardware technologies in the last 25 years come to fruition to help streaming take the next steps, and then the next steps, and then the next steps. And it's really great to see it now kind of delivering on that promise, especially during this time where we're all stuck at home, yet have incredible entertainment options that I couldn't have dreamed of a decade ago. Oh my gosh, movies going straight to digital and bypassing the theatrical window. Really interesting. It's interesting to see which ones get delayed for later theatrical release, which ones come straight to the house. I know my family's really enjoyed Onward and other movies coming straight into to digital. But the history of being able to finally get it to this point where it's a reliable service, both on video and audio, and the fact that it now opens up a whole world of entertainment options for everybody has been terrific. That's my background on streaming.
And John, you want to jump in to talk about music really and live streaming as well?
Yeah, the business, as Richard points out, it's actually been around a long time. I've been in it for 20 years. I think it's 20. Live streaming technically is 25 years old, and originally it was noted for some of the failures. Right, people probably might recall the Victoria's Secret show that quote crashed the internet. I think Oprah Winfrey back then had a massive experience as well, and the news would cover, boy, these live shows just don't work. And what started to transpire was the propagation of bandwidth, and then kind of the advent of the smartphone, where you could actually play video on a handheld device. And then we got into things like adaptive streaming. What I think has really moved the market along has been the adoption of live video on the social media platforms. So starting in 2009, YouTube live streamed, YouTube performing at the Rose Bowl, I think in the fall of 2009. And that same year, December 1st, was an Alicia Keys concert. I was working at AEG at the time, at an AEG venue, brought to the viewer on YouTube by American Express. Today, YouTube has a full-on stack, amazing deep stack of technology for live video. The other platforms kind of have followed along to kind of drive the growth of live video. In 2014, Amazon spent nearly $1 billion acquiring Twitch. The following year, Twitter bought Periscope. Now there's full capabilities on the Twitter platform. And the real explosion came in 2016 when Facebook came out of beta with live streaming. It kind of became more of an adoptive strategy. And then in 2017, you had Instagram with live capabilities. And Instagram has clearly been a place in the current situation that we're in today, is where large amount of musicians are offering their content. Not to say that all of them now, I think, have that capability, but it's really been this kind of, I feel like it's been around forever, but it's really only started to happen in the last couple of years. And it's, I think, also been fueled by the notion of the experience economy. You've got a large segment of society indexed as millennials and now Gen Z, and their priority in life, I think I've seen data that says like 89% of them list music as their hobby or their passion. They'd rather be at experiences and sharing them with their friends than buying a house or watch or a car. So it's kind of been that perfect storm of devices, emphasis on experiences, and then the social platforms themselves offering live video, which has kind of led to this, I would call it a renaissance. Now with all of us being stuck at home and there's really no live sports, it's become like, how do we watch artists performing, in their living room or their bedroom? Well, to me, that's been the overall history of the development of the live streaming market.
And Reid, have you had any experience in the past, like with live streaming on your end?
Yeah, actually, I got involved with live streaming back in the 90s. I used to work at a record store called Breakbeat Science, and they had a show on a network called Pseudo.com, which we streamed every Thursday, a drum and bass internet radio show. And my husband used to run this thing called Sublife here, database in LA. They did the same thing that we were doing in New York at Pseudo, doing a live drum and bass stream every Thursday. Back in the 90s when it was hard to watch, and then as per now, kind of picking up where they just left off, like I've been streaming since Facebook came out with Facebook Live streaming. I was an early adopter of that and found it to be a very delightful way to reach fans where, maybe you're not always playing the shows that you want to play or you think you should be playing, but you found out that you could just show up and make your own show and your fans would actually come to you. It's a game changer.
No, that makes sense. And I know from my perspective, just quickly, I'm in San Francisco. I remember when Justin TV started. And Justin was actually he would live stream his entire life. Right. I forget, remember the movies back then too, but I think there was a movie called Ed or something like that. And there was this movie about live streaming your entire life. And it was more of a novelty. And Justin went on to found Twitch, be one of the founders of Twitch. But this idea of live streaming is real. And there's this connection. And to John's, Richard's seen it from day one in a lot of ways. And from John's perspective too, to what you mentioned, which is when Facebook, when mobile phones, when all these came out, it's kind of created this perfect storm to allow people to really take in live streaming and to really understand that live And that connection of live, even using, FaceTime, these live interactions are real. There's a way to connect there. What I haven't seen until COVID, and I know, I'm working at Sessions Live. I've been talking to the music industry for over a year about really about live streaming as a whole. A lot of them just don't want to dip in their toes in that water. Whereas all of a sudden with COVID, now I feel like musicians are really jumping in. I felt like in the past, it's been more put a camera in the corner on the stage and hope for the best and not really interacting. So what are your guys' experience around music specifically? And prior to COVID, what was happening?
I mean, like you said,
Prior to COVID.
Sorry.
No, Reid, please.
Well, just from a musician's perspective, prior to this, there was just a lot of like set the phone up and just kind of go live. And it's just a cool way to do a thing. But now obviously everyone's taking it really seriously. We have nothing else to do. So everyone's trying to bring the full live experience with the visuals, with the great sound quality, with multiple camera angles. They're trying to bring a full on festival to your living room.
Richard, want to jump in?
Sure. I'll add that what we've seen, going into COVID, streaming was already, exploding in popularity. As John alluded to, this last decade has been incredible. But just since the lockdown, we've seen some really creative uses for making that connection happen. It's almost like the birth of a new category of entertainment that we're all watching happen at the same time here, which is really exciting. But it's out of necessity. Instead of these venue-based tours where you're at a concert. I mean, there's so much energy when you're at a concert. I love it. But now we're seeing these intimate performances, if you will, where you've still got, 1 million people potentially in your living room without breaking any fire codes. And so it's almost becoming a new way to deliver a different kind of connection from the music industry. And we're hearing from bands every day that are thinking, maybe this is the way I drop songs from now on. Or maybe even though this is a short-term issue that we're all dealing with, maybe this is becoming another long-term option for how we connect with fans that is very different, very unique compared to the options that were there before.
John, you want to add to that?
Yeah, my experience, it's been kind of a learning curve, I think, for the music industry. 10 years ago, we would go to Stream a Live Festival and you get about 60% artist participation. And I think today, artists show up expecting to be live streamed. They've spent a lot of time building their social media presence and their following. I think electronic music has really been an entire genre that's been built on digital platforms. Those artists completely get it. They want to know where the cameras are. Same, I think, for the nature of hip hop. The artists are releasing music all the time. They're making mixtapes or singles and doing collaborations. It lends itself, back, early on, I think some folks in the music business felt like, oh, if I live stream this, I'm going to cannibalize my future ticket sales. And what we've seen, it's just the opposite. A couple of years ago, Live Nation announced a partnership with Vice to put live music on that platform. And I remember Michael Rapino going on to CNBC to talk about that. And the first question the reporters asked him was, hey, Michael, aren't you going to cannibalize ticket sales? And he said, it's just the opposite. The more live video I serve, the more tickets that I sell. And, there's no substitute for being in that venue, whether it's a tiny, lounge, or it's a massive arena or anywhere in between. Live video on your device is not a substitute for that. We try to make it as close as possible, but the beauty of live video is you can start to have things like discovery. You can make offers. You can identify who your fans are. Years ago when we were streaming, I think it was Lollapalooza on YouTube. The promoter got, the data that comes out of these shows tells you where people are watching from. And I think, today you see Lollapalooza programmed in like Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Paris. I mean, data helps you book tours and identify, where your fans are. So it's been, and I fully understand that. It's when a new technology comes along, you've got other priorities. If you're a promoter, you've got to book bands, sell tickets, and manage on-site sponsorship. And at the time, it might look like, oh, if I put these things online, it's going to, negatively affect what I'm going to do in terms of my routing and my touring. But in fact, today's consumers is really compelling data. If they see a show and they see this artist performing, the propensity to buy when they come around next, or go deeper into the catalog. When is this artist going to release some new music? How can I sign up to be a super fan? How can I opt into the mailing list? The beauty of live video today, the stark advantage is engagement time. People will watch these experiences 5, 10, 15, 20, plus minutes. We've had shows that have gone on, with the average watch time of a large audience. And that should be the focus. It's not necessarily how many viewers I have, but it's what kind of watch time am I getting? And there are ways now, there are all kinds of tools that help transform the viewer into a participant in the show. And that's the power you can harness around live streaming today.
No, I think it's interesting as well, because to your point, so the length of the data you can get back from it too. And then I think realistically, you're taking a virtual stage. We're talking in 1 second, you can be in 200 countries. And in countries where maybe that's the only way they would ever find you. Beyonce can't tour in 200 countries. There aren't venues big enough for her in a lot of these countries, but she can go live and be in the homes of billions of music fans around the world, because it is a universal language. And I guess that opportunity is there. I know there's a lot of artists that are testing the waters in the last month, testing Instagram. Some of them are doing YouTube Live. I know they've had some issues with services going down. I mean, even the versus challenges when the rap battles. What are your guys' thoughts for the technology that's out there currently right now, that you're seeing too, like across YouTube and Instagram? You guys want to just walk through the platforms for managers and artists that are out there? And Richard, do you want to start with this?
Yeah, I think you've nailed a few of those right off the bat, that are getting a lot of press for the failures, just like different parts of the streaming ecosystem have for at different points in the 25 years that it. But today, even today, if you're using conventional streaming, you still have a scalability issue, and you don't know where that necessarily is going to be. And it's not just music, it's not just entertainment or sports, it's across the board. It's almost the elephant in the room that nobody will talk about, is that streaming wasn't designed to scale initially. And so there's a lot of innovation going on. Like I said, that's what we're focused on, specifically on solving problems like that, to avoid pulling the viewer out of the experience when they're in the middle of it, because that's important to us. You can't drop frames, you can't drop audio, you can't just have blips happening and expect people to stay engaged. And engagement is one of the key performance indicators for growing an audience and growing a business. So if you can't hold on to engagement, you're not going to be able to hold on to your audience. The other thing I'll say about that is that we found just in the last 6 weeks, a lot of feedback from artists that were using these different platforms, that it just wasn't the same as when they get together to perform. And even with the pre-produced, we've seen a lot of pre-produced content. Some of it's on TV, some of it's on live stream, but it's streamed as if it's live, but it's clearly not live. I think it fools most of the audience, and I'm not. I think it's I understand completely why it was done that way. There aren't a lot of options to put together high quality production. One of the things that we've done to adapt for the technology side is we actually invented new features with musicians. Specifically, we have a rock star on our team, a former touring musician, which has been very helpful. And I'm a recovering drummer from way back, so I can immediately look at a live stream and see the difference between 4 people in a band that happen to be rehearsing in 4 different places of the country or the world at the same time versus 4 people jamming together. The energy is different, the playback is different, there's no cueing off of other people. So we actually invented a feature that we call Live Jam, which is a streaming technology feature that allows bands to synchronize streams to each other and then synchronize the group performance to all of the viewers it's being distributed to. But they get to play listening to each other and be able to cue off of each other's actions and sounds so that they can still get a little bit of that energy as if they were all still together. We just wanted to try and help bring back that live performance, that live jam, if you will, at a time when it's just not safe to travel and do so.
And John, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, what we've seen, what's happening, currently in terms of performing, musicians are, sometimes they're in their bedrooms, and we've looked for ways to help. And so we offer managed service. We can send out a kit that addresses audio, video, and lighting. So the kit will have a dedicated camera or a smartphone. We've had great success with Samsung's G20 phones because the front is 4K, the reverse selfie is 8K, so it's literally broadcast quality. But we can also remotely manage that device. So if there's a challenge in the setup or the testing or the performance, we can help the artist or the band kind of take over and manage that device. The other thing too is they have a dedicated camera. You've seen people performing and they're getting blown up with text messages and incoming calls on their personal phone. So we alleviate that. So the video is better, it's superior. We can also do this with multiple cameras. Second, we'll include a microphone, a professional microphone in the kit. So rather than talking into your phone, you've got a clear, the audio is a lot more pristine, and then a lighting panel to help properly light. And the phones will actually have an app on them as well to send the video signal to us by bonding the Wi-Fi in the room with the cellular carrier. So it's a pretty robust signal. And the advantage there is that we can now process that video on a state-of-the-art encoding platform that's fully redundant in the top live encoding appliances in the world. So it's better experience across the entire value chain. But now the artists can go anywhere, not just to Facebook, not just to Instagram. We can go Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. We also build microsites so we can pop up the experience on an artist's site and provide the stream that way. And the other question too about the social platforms today, some have strengths, some have weaknesses. What we have found is you get a pretty big audience on Facebook. You get a much longer watch time on YouTube, even though the audience is smaller. I think Twitch has built incredible tools. Their real focus is on interaction and engagement and chat and all kinds of compelling widgets. And then, Twitter's got a great platform to drive viewers into the experience as it's happening in real time. YouTube and Twitch are stereo. So if you see a great example is Questlove was doing, he's DJing every night, but to me, it was 5 nights of Prince, when he goes deep into the Prince catalog, and he's got more Prince music than anybody walking this earth, probably, more than some of, complimentary to Prince's vault. But he pinned in the Instagram feed, if you want to hear the stereo version of this show, go to YouTube. So it's great to, I think, be in multiple places, and it's also helpful, especially, the understanding is we might not have touring for the better part of this year, maybe into some aspects of next year. So we're looking for ways to help elevate that quality of those engagements and also go wide as possible. And then, I think the big opportunity also for the music business today is talking to brands to sponsor these experiences and start to introduce monetization. And, right now music doesn't have to compete with live sports. I think that's pretty noteworthy. And this is, very compelling. And if we can help lift the quality and drive innovation and do different things, we've seen abilities to include robotic cameras. I think a great example is what Post Malone did on YouTube. He did an entire Nirvana tribute with Travis Barker. And it was, I think he presented himself in an entirely different light to not only his audience, but other people that tuned in to watch, given he was also I think he raised $4 million for COVID relief. So that's kind of my general thinking on what's happening today and how it can be elevated, and then what the landscape is across those platforms where a lot of people are camped out.
No, that's great. And what I want to do is I definitely want to get into the monetization aspect. But Reid, what's been your experience too as an artist with technologies and the different platforms? Is there a favorite for you, or is there a non-favorite, or?
So both John and Richard have brought up some really good points, but just from an artist perspective, I think there's something really important that we should take this opportunity to discuss. And that's that as a DJ, certain platforms, Twitch is obviously right now, Twitch has become the best platform because Twitch will not stop your stream. When you're on Facebook, Facebook will often just end your stream because it contains monetized content. Now, the conversation that I feel like the industry has totally missed, and it's a huge opportunity that they're missing, is to make, if Facebook, YouTube, all these platforms want to be smart about it, they need to make the licensing deals the same way that venues have to pay a performance royalty to the performance royalty organizations. These platforms need to be doing the same thing so that creators can do whatever they need to do. If you're a DJ and you may be playing some of your own music, but a lot of other people's music, there's no reason, like as an artist, as a creator on Facebook, I used to have, when Facebook Live came out, my streams were very popular. I would get 20, 30,000 views every week. And I'm getting emails from Facebook saying, your streams are so popular that we want to give you the opportunity to monetize your streams. But in the same breath, they're shutting my streams down for content violations. And this just doesn't make sense. There's a disconnect here. YouTube will shut you down if you're not playing stuff that you own. So it's really hard for a DJ to do a concert on YouTube. You have to have all the licensing in place. And even then, you don't know who to contact to say, hey, I have these permissions. I want to do this thing. Where can we make sure I'm not going to get shut down? So it's kind of just been a brave new world where artists will go live on Facebook until they kick us off, but it's still going on Twitch. We're using things like Restream and Maestro and like different platforms to be able to go Instagram here, Facebook there, Twitch there, and just see where the cards fall and who doesn't kick you off.
I think that's a great point. So Richard and John, you want to jump in too, and let's kind of dig in on licensing as well, because I know a lot of people want to talk about this.
I want to just add, related to that exactly, I can almost tell you when the stay-at-home and shelter-in-place orders started happening around the country, not even watching the news, I can just tell you from the phone starting to ring. And it was ringing off the hook after the initial batch of live stream performances started to go on social media, and these problems that Reid mentioned were getting bigger and bigger. People started reaching out to more bespoke solutions for being able to provide the experience, embedded in their web page or their labels pages, specifically the ability to deliver content without having those algorithms policing them, just so they can get a solid set out, even when they're already licensed. Unfortunately, the big content and social distributors aren't checking in any way if the licenses are already valid. They're just pulling down what they recognize algorithmically. And that's a big problem for the industry. That said, I think the artists have to remember too, even though we're in, as you put it, a remarkable situation right now, all those laws for the music industry still apply, and licensing needs to be adhered to, even with benefits.
Yeah, but right now it just feels like none of these companies are coming together to have the conversations. Like it just seems like they want to bury their head in the sand. Like Facebook is happy to host your content and get your viewership numbers, but they're just as quick to take it down. And why not? If you're a venue, you can make a reasonable license. You can pay ASCAP, you can pay BMI, you can make very reasonable performance license deals as a venue. And why are these streaming services not trying to go in the brave new world of where we're at? We are venues. Facebook is now a live venue. YouTube is a live venue. Make the deal, make it so that it's legal for us to do what we do. I think it would be a great conversation. It would make a lot of money for everyone, because now there'd be, legal ad revenue, and we could be profit sharing with every artist that gets played on a DJ stream could be getting paid.
I agree. That was a big missed opportunity from this situation that we're in. And so what we're seeing as a reaction by the market, by the consumers, by the people viewing all this, is that, and even the artists, social started as the venue, and it's quickly becoming a traffic director to other ways to watch your content. So certainly the connections are going to happen. If they can't happen on social, they happen somewhere else. But if the audience is on social, then social is just used to drive the audience to wherever that connection is happening.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And as I said, some of these platforms have strengths and some have weaknesses. And, music is not their immediate priority when they wake up in the morning. It's just, Instagram is a photo platform, and YouTube theoretically is a video, largely user-generated content platform. And I think, fortunately, artists are pretty smart about where their fans are and what platforms resonate most strongly with them. We've had success, I think, to Richard's point, in driving viewers. I know Facebook definitely has challenges. You can post like a calendar event that says you're going live, and you can direct viewers to where the show might be. And that's one way to help. But yeah, it's not pleasant when your stream gets turned off in mid-show. We've had some success too with teasing the experience on multiple platforms, YouTube, Facebook, wherever. Maybe it's the pre-show or the first 5 minutes of the show, and then driving the viewers back to a viewing hub that the artist can control. And this is like a white label pop-up, call it a microsite, that's going to have rich features and functions, kind of like what Twitch has. That's been pretty successful, and we think that's an interesting model for the future, especially as we're kind of riding out the pandemic situation. But there are ways to find where your viewers are and navigate that kind of matrix of challenges on the social platforms, but then drive them back to this authentic hub that's got a deeper, richer experience where you, as the artist, you're facilitating it, and you're more in control then, and subject to the challenges that pop up on those platforms.
And it sounds like, what we're hearing too is these major social platforms just want to kind of be, hey, we're washing our hands clean of this. If you're playing the content, even if it's your own content, you created this, you're out, you're SOL, essentially, and leaving because they don't want to even start those conversations yet. And to your point, John, Facebook's been doing this for years, live in general, and just don't want to even step in there where maybe the terms of services just go, you're screwed. And a lot of artists have to look at it that way, going, look, Facebook, YouTube, these platforms where they're not going to help you license, where they're not going to help you get to a better spot, might be platforms to just tease and to get, because your fans are there, and then pull them to another place where you can perform and you can make your money, because they're not going to necessarily change. If they haven't changed yet, they're not going to change now off the bat. Right. But there's ways to utilize and leverage what they bring, which is just the audience, and just take them away to your own platform, I guess. Is that what I'm hearing to you guys?
Well, it's not necessarily our platform as much as it is we're a technology provider that's helping, just like John said, white label solutions that can be embedded anywhere. But you're absolutely right as far as if the audience is at social and social's not reacting here to what the business needs to be, then social just becomes a director of traffic to help your audience discover where to go view your show the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confusion about this particular topic. We're not licensing this music in perpetuity for a movie or a television show. So there's got to be some common ground to easily solve this. So there's a window of live, maybe there's a window of rebroadcasting and replay that's, a reasonable 30 days, where everyone's properly compensated. There's got to be a way to get into this, especially right now. I think now is the time to do that, right? You've got everybody can't theoretically tour on the stages where they've been booked. Now it's the time to have that conversation and quickly. I think it's solvable. It's frustrating even being in the technology business. Yeah. I can imagine, Reid, from an artist perspective, how it's got to be somewhat brutal to figure out how to do this without having things turned off or getting confusing notices. I love your content, but some of it you can't actually perform. So.
Yeah, and as a smaller artist, as an independent artist, DJ, producer, whatever, we don't have the resources monetarily, financially, that large bands, headlining bands, we don't have the means to set up a site where we can host our own streaming and funnel people away from Facebook onto our own magic server. Like, we're counting on the social media platforms where we've built our fan bases, and right now they're basically, for the most part, letting us down as we're driving their ad revenue by creating all this great content. Like, the ad companies and Facebook and everyone's making a lot of money, but then they're like making it really hard. So it's a real challenge as an independent artist to try to, you know, we're hoping that people will come to the table and make these deals so that this can become the thing that it is for everyone to be able to use it, you know, that it's not, doesn't have to be more payola, like only the big dogs get to pay to play and everyone else loses.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. No, I wonder too, like the licensing thing, I think it's not going to get solved in this conversation, but I think the idea is that we're missing a lot. And that, to Reid's point, like she's bringing in 30,000 people to a virtual party and they're shutting it down. And then at the same time, Tony, great job. You brought 30,000 people to us. Thank you for that. And I guess it's just, it must be daunting for any artist because you can't just, there's no way to easily go there and to change that. How are you, what I want to talk about too, because I know I want to get to questions. Let's talk monetization then too. Like, what does this look like for an artist to actually monetize and actually make money? For someone like Reid, who's bringing in 20, 30,000 people, what are these platforms? How do they actually do that? Especially now that we know that, live tours aren't going to be happening anytime soon. So Reid, do you want to start with that or what your thoughts are?
I mean, it's like, to the point that you're all making, it's like, yeah, we can show up on these networks where we have the fans, and then, you know, it's up to us to engage the users enough to drive them to our other content. To hopefully, if we do a great job streaming, they're going to want to go listen to our stuff on Spotify, and then we'll get paid there, you know. But as independent artists, we are certainly looking for better ways. Twitch allows you to have a monetized account. If you get, I think it's over 100 people watching once a week for X amount of time, you become affiliate, then you become a partner, then you can monetize your streams, then you can get paid. But if you do that, then you can't stream anywhere else. So it's a lot of tough choices that independent artists have to make. You know, you can try to do it on YouTube until they take it down. You can do it on Facebook. You're not going to get paid. So it's everyone. And then there's like OnlyFans, you know, and Patreon and things where people are looking to other ways of funding what they're doing. People trying to sell merch, you know, there's only so many different ways we'll be able to do this until we're allowed to do this in the places that exist. And if that doesn't happen, I'm not sure how we can convert this into money for independent artists.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, Richard and John, do you want to jump in? Well, Richard, you want to go first?
Sure. I think what Reid's alluding to is obviously well known inside the music industry, not as much outside, that the artists really make their the majority of their money on these tours. And it's merch and it's tours and it's shows, and it's not as much the music rights if you're a signed artist. And with the touring industry just completely shutting down without notice, and we're hearing from labels and others that touring's not going to be happening in earnest again until fall of 2021 at this point. So we're still almost 16 months out on touring restarting in venues in a big way. So what we've tried to focus on is what can we do to help the artist be able to monetize their shows if it's on a white label or a microsite, if it's embedded in their site. You know, can we integrate a really easy way for them to be able to sell merch online as opposed to, you know, without even leaving the show, with it right there next to the show happening online, so that the experience never changes. They're there to enjoy the show, but they can also pick their t-shirt sizes and colors and other things that they want to grab right there during the show while they're engaged. At the same time, especially in the last 6 weeks, there's been a big focus on the ability to make shows that also had a charity element to them. It's really been a driver for shows to help healthcare workers, to help a lot of different charities where these shows have been really beneficial in raising money for these causes that matter. So in addition to helping all of the different aspects of what used to put on a show still get paid, it's been something that's been very beneficial to the larger picture of need.
Yeah, I think the good news is that the music business today with live streaming also has a huge opportunity in terms of sponsorship and advertising. And I've, predicated part of my business on having those conversations. And what I've observed is marketers and brands have three massive headaches and three massive challenges. And that's cord cutting, ad blocking, and brand safety. And, theoretically, the consumer that they're trying to reach today, let's say, is a music fan in their 30s, they're not watching Law & Order on Thursday night on NBC and sitting through the commercials. It's not happening. And I think the millennial cord cutting rate is like 40% of millennials have already done that, and you have cord nevers. So there's a massive amount of spent on traditional television and traditional advertising that's not even reaching this most desired demographic on the planet, whose passion is, the index is music, period. So I think there's ways to have dialogues with Madison Ave to say, hey, even the pop-up ads that you're serving on a mobile device, everyone, I forget what the current ad blocking adoption rates are, but it's insane. And if you're advertising too on a platform and it's got crazy, nefarious, dubious content in and around it, you've got a brand safety issue. And our opinion is live streamed music brought directly to the consumer, sponsored in partnership with a brand, addresses all three of those issues. And more importantly, I think you can't emphasize engagement and watch time enough. Again, large chunks of time. When I've done projects for a brand like Coca-Cola, we had that 29-minute average watch time on mobile and the 113-minute watch time on desktop. Their feedback to us is, I can't get this demographic's attention for greater than 4 seconds. And here I had a compelling, and the fans, I've done this for forever. They're thrilled that they're being brought this experience. And it doesn't have to be Jay-Z and Coldplay and Madonna. And a lot of brands don't have that kind of capital either. They can't spend $2 million on a single performance, single show. It's bigger opportunities for independent and emerging artists as well. And I think that's a conversation that, if it's delivered properly, you're going to find that these advertisers are pretty interested. Right? If you can give them that type of traction, and then get into it with them. And also, I think I started my business largely based on that. When I referenced that Alicia Keys show back in December 1st of 2009, that gave birth to American Express on Stage. And MX would have these unique venues bring in a big artist and also bolt on a feature film director like a Spike Lee or a David Lynch. And they reached a lot of people, but more importantly, the watch time on average per view was 25 minutes. That was a big home run for that brand. Again, that's a big spend, big, massive project. But that can be scaled and replicated, I think, to other experiences as well. And I think that's a massive opportunity given the crazy disruption happening in the advertising world right now.
And so I think
I'll admit that John is right on that, and we're certainly seeing exactly that. Sponsors are missing out on other opportunities. Big sponsors that normally they'd be sponsoring the Final Four and these other massive events. They're all gone right now. So we're seeing the opposite effect than we usually see. We're seeing sponsors looking for content as opposed to being shopped for content. And that's a really unique time and a unique opportunity that is some people are taking advantage of it. I think, as Reid said, social's kind of missing the boat on the bigger picture on what could have been as far as monetization goes.
Well, I think from a monetization perspective too, if we talk through it right now too, so brands and sponsorships, it's a major opportunity. And it sounds like from what I'm hearing from you, and I think that's right, which is sports aren't coming back anyway either. Touring's not coming back at that point quickly. Sports isn't coming back in a major way quickly. There's an opportunity for those brands that sponsor all these major festivals, that sponsor all of these sporting events to really sponsor this live content and sponsor it around these incredible artists, one. And then two, I think from a monetization perspective for the platforms themselves, there's these virtual good currencies. There's ticketing that's coming to play now, virtual tickets and virtual ticketing. So artists can charge some amount of money. The tip jars that are coming on Facebook and Instagram, and those applause buttons. I think there's multiple ways that are coming about. I'm kind of saddened that a lot of them didn't come about further because it's just more of a reaction as opposed to a strategic pull. But it sounds like there's different ways to monetize content if you can get your content played, to Reid's point, because if you're bringing 30,000 into a venue and everyone was paying $1 and they cut it off halfway through, she'd have to deal with the 30,000 people that were upset, not Facebook. And so it's this balancing act, I guess, right? Is that what I'm hearing, guys, too?
Well, I'm not gonna complain about that part of it, just because it's been really good for us to be able to be a company that actually just goes out and checks licenses before we go live, and then we'll play whatever the show's playing because we know it's valid. So having that flexibility versus immediate algorithmic takedowns has been a good thing for us.
Gotcha. So let's talk about, I know I want to take questions right now. So guys, start posting your questions up. We got 10 minutes left. I want to start taking some questions now. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to cover before we jump into questions? Reid? No. Richard, you feel good?
I think I covered a lot. I'm good.
John, anything else before we jump into questions?
I think questions would be great.
Great. So guys, some of the questions coming in, we've had a bunch. A lot of people are still going through the licensing. I don't know how. People are asking about the performing, asking how and who's reporting the music they're performing. So Richard, you mentioned you're getting stuff pre-checked. Is that correct?
That's right. We're going through the process with partners to make sure that music is cleared, that royalties are being paid as appropriate. We found out, going through the process that there are some surprising things. If you have a live performance, that's one thing. I think Reid mentioned the PRO, which is good. But at the same time, if you're going to play it back on demand, you need an actual sync license for the on-demand performances, which is important to remember. So again, we're trying to focus, follow the rules, but then allow the flexibility for the artist to perform what they're going to perform rather than hosting any kind of takedown. That we're just trying to solve the problem before it goes live.
Yeah. And one of the questions people are coming up on, we didn't touch much on Instagram Live. Do you guys want to talk about Instagram Live? Because people are asking specifically about that platform.
I mean, I'll jump in and say, just as a platform, Instagram is by far the most casual. So it's not very possible to do the very creative stuff. You're just kind of plugging the phone in and you're putting the phone. So it's a great way to engage your fans, but there isn't a clear path to monetization there. And it's an intimate experience, but it's not a concert experience per se. So I feel like it's a cool thing that people do, but no one's really seeing the way to make money with that.
Yeah, I think for live video on both Facebook and Instagram right now, you can't buy media. I know you can on the other platforms. So if you're a brand and you're paying the artist and you want to promote and drive viewership, you have those options. With Instagram, you are limited to a camera phone only, and it's limited to 60 minutes. We did build a proprietary tool that allows us to take a produced multi-camera feed and stream that on Instagram. So that's an interesting capability that people have responded to favorably. I think the beauty of that platform is a tremendous notification system. It alerts all the followers when that account is live, and it becomes a default in the browser. So I think that's interesting. I think that definitely helps. It's not stereo, so you've got that particular challenge. And when we do these shows, we'll also build what's called a backplate. So the experience kind of pops, it's branded, and it looks nice. So we've had, great success. The noteworthy thing about Instagram is, there's 1 billion users of that platform, and 50% follow 10 or more music artists. So it's a great, call it a launching pad or a hub to do something there on that, especially with live currently. But what we're seeing is they're talking about given the current situation, lifting that 60-minute limitation. But also you can message in the experience that says, hey, we're just going to restart the stream. And we see most of the viewers follow on to the restarted stream in case the set's longer than that 60 minutes. So that's things to consider with that platform.
And have you guys seen, one other thing I forgot. Well, actually, Richard, do you want to chime in regarding Instagram Live? Forgot to bring in on that.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
What about, TikTok was adding 30-minute live streams. What are you seeing since they've added that and been promoting that? Richard, you want to start with that? Or have you seen anything?
Nope. I'm going to pass on TikTok.
Okay.
Same.
Okay. So you guys aren't using that at all?
We have not had a request for it to date.
No, that makes sense.
To be fair, TikTok is really helping a lot of the music industry in a way where it's allowing songs to go viral. But as far as like a live streaming video platform, like, I don't know.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I know that they've been trying to promote that. They were doing like 30-minute sessions. I just didn't know if anyone's actually jumped into it, if you guys have heard it. So guys, we have a couple minutes left. What I want to do too is make sure, Reid Speed is a legend. Yes, you are, Reid Speed, you're a legend. We've seen some great things in here. Any interest in virtual reality, 360, 3D performances, and what are your thoughts on that, guys?
Have you guys seen the Wave VR? It's been happening for a few years. They've been doing live DJ concerts in VR. It's called the Wave. And I know I've seen people doing performances on Fortnite as well, DJ performances. So I think there's definitely a huge space that's virtual concerts coming very soon.
Yeah. And
I think the virtual concerts are really cool, and seeing them show up on different platforms has been really enjoyable over the last several weeks. I don't know if you guys have seen, there was a company called Red Pill VR out in LA that was doing a really unique take on music experiences, and I have not kept up with them, but I imagine that this is ideal for them.
John, anything?
We can support those experiences as they're asked by our clients. Last summer we live streamed the first AR experience. It was the JFK Memorial Library did this 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 launch and kind of built this app, and it's a cool experience. It was a live stream with Twitch influencers. So we can support that. We've done some things in 5G with our clients, AT&T. A couple of years ago at the Vive Latino Festival, we shot the main stage in live VR with Muse's video director, kind of directed that main stage with some big and emerging artists. And you could watch that on YouTube, or they did a partnership with, Samsung did a partnership with the Best Buy stores throughout Mexico, and you could go into the store and enjoy the show that way. So those capabilities exist. It's largely built, predicated by demand from the clients, and I think that's also predicated by adoption of the devices that can play these formats back, which are still happening and driving adoption. So we're really, I would say, beholden to requests from clients as they come in.
Yeah, so to your point, the audience is going to really dictate the market in a lot of ways, and I think from Wave VR, what they're doing, this virtual reality, is a great way, a different experience to get the audience perspective. And I know one of the DJ battles, there was an actual battle where you had to do a VR battle with other audience members to bring it to life. So I think it's great. I think it's interesting. I think the future of live streaming holds a lot. And I think artists are getting more comfortable with it. Managers and the industry as a whole is getting more comfortable with it. I think fans are pretty comfortable with it. It doesn't replace the live experience, but it actually creates a different space, to your point, Richard, which is an intimate space where fans and artists can come together in that way and really connect. And so, John, you're helping artists too, but I just want to make sure people understand what you're doing too. You're helping artists, brands, platforms where they go, how do we even, especially from an artist perspective, that side, artists are going, how do I even get started? What do I do? You're shipping those packages and those things to help them really get a produced live session up. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's we're here to provide managed services. There's always free. You can always take your phone out and go right to a dedicated platform, and more power to you. But we're looking to elevate. But we will help, right? If someone wants to jump on the phone with us and go through best practices, and you're in the music business, we're happy to do that, especially during the current climate that we're in. But our overall, mission is to elevate and provide best practices across the market. I largely built this business I worked with Prince for 5 years. I built his direct-to-consumer music platform and also a ticketing platform for his biggest tour of all time. And I learned a lot. In those 5 years, this is arguably the most successful independent artist of all time. And he was pretty ferocious about his music and his content and how he operated it. And for him, it was super important to go direct and have that direct relationship with the music fans. So that's kind of been our ethos in the business. And we want to elevate and make this as successful as possible.
Great. And then Richard, you're like leading the way since the beginning, really trying to, I guess, bring the platform up, bring the speed up. I know you're talking about allowing bands around the world to connect and live stream. Do you want to talk more about the technology you have too? I just want to make sure people understand that too.
Sure. Definitely a differentiator from John. We're not a service provider. We're a technology innovator. We provide the technology that improves streaming for different platforms. So we're there to improve scalability, to reduce costs and improve financials for streaming providers. But at the same time, it's about innovation for us. So as needed, we're coming up with newer, innovative ways to deliver streaming experiences that help with what's needed, in a more way. Certainly, our streaming pipeline is years ahead of the conventional streaming pipeline used by most, and because of that, we're doing really interesting things. We set distance records last week. We did streams over 9,000 miles to the other side of the planet with 1 second startup time, with no pop in between, which is just kind of unheard of. And we did it with a 30-minute show, and then we did it again from South Korea. Then we did it again from India, and then another place in India, then West Africa, just to show off once it was working so well in our tests. So we're really focused on innovation technology for streaming, like the Live Jam, and now also working with brands on a variation of that we call Live Master, which can be used for remote studio quality capture and tracking.
That's great. And thanks for coming on today, John and Richard. And then Reid, I mean, look, you're a legend. Everyone's saying you're a legend in this chat. I love it. People are loving you. And like you're leading the forefront too with a lot of this and really testing out different platforms. Where do people connect with you after this? Because I know a lot of people loved what you were saying. I think a lot of people are in the same boat. And I'm glad you brought up a lot of this. So you want to kind of close out with this?
Yeah, I mean, I just hope that we can find a way, like if there can become an organization that will lobby, bring together the labels, these venues, these new online venues, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Fortnite, you name it, a group needs to come together to have the conversations, because this is the most crucial thing as far as independent artists is concerned, to make this happen so that it seamlessly works for everyone and everyone gets paid fairly for what's happening, because there's no reason that it shouldn't be happening. Like, we have the technology. If they can take down your stream, they can pay that person who they're taking you down for. So that's where I would leave it at, is that the industry needs to come together, figure this stuff out, and let's get people paid for doing the thing that everybody loves so much.
Oh, thank you so much. And you're right. So Reid, Richard, John, thank you so much for joining today. We really appreciate it. I know we're going to do more of these. We're going to have to bring you all back because I think people loved it. There's been so much chatter, lots of great questions, lots of great feedback going on in this chat here. Guys, in 10:15, there's going to be the Bill Silva talk. We're going to end this. I'm going to keep the chat open. I'm going to stop the video and mute us. So John, Richard, Reid, again, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'll follow up with you via email. Talk to you soon.
Seth.
Thank you.